Hello everyone, I don't want to waste your time, so I wrote all the answers I will give in this video and even more than that, just the main ones. I won't read all of them, you can read through them, but the main thing is yes, I will show how to set up HTTPS localhost. I will show how Nginx can be professionally set up in your computer. I will show how to generate the certificates and all this stuff, how to serve Laravel project and how to serve WordPress under HTTPS. And I think all these topics, they are useful and people really know how to do them, but there is so little content about them so that people can't really find them. But I hope it will be helpful. Thank you. Hello everyone. Today I want to clear things up with PHP and HTML and how can we serve our own web server from our local machine and how we can do HTTPS instead of normal HTTP. So in Visual Studio Code, if you will take a look on live server, they don't give you an opportunity to make HTTPS, okay? So what they do, maximum is that they can, serve HTTP. But in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you the whole process and the difference between HTML, PHP, and how all this stuff works so that you know what live server is all about. As you can see, Live Server has been installed over than 50 million of times, and I don't really think that people who use that have an understanding how it all works, okay? It is pretty useful, you can read about it, but I'm not gonna go through all of this. I just want to show you, what I want to show you in this video today. Now, I'm going to create a new index.html file. I'm going to comment this line. So now if I'll copy the path of my index.html and I'll go over here in my browser and paste it in here, as you can see, my HTML is working out, and it basically, so the browser can read what my HTML is. I think the first misunderstanding that I've ever, encountered is people don't really know that you can serve index.html without web server. So they think I have to install web server to serve index.html. It's not so. Actually, HTML markup language has been created for the purpose so that you can serve the static websites. If we'll go over here, we will see that HTML is a standard markup language for creating web pages. And you can serve HTML without a server, okay? So you can basically type the path to this file in your browser and it will work. Okay, this is the first thing. Now, the next thing is what is going to happen if I'm going to change it on PHP. So first of all, HTML is not a programming language. It is just the markup language, okay? But not anyhow a programming language. PHP is a programming language. If we'll go over here and we'll say what is PHP, it will say that hypertext preprocessor, and by the way, AI is very correct in this because it's actually what it is, and it says is a free open source scripting language that's often used for web development, okay? And if we will ask, for example, is PHP a programming language, the answer is going to be yes. PHP is a programming language. And I would also add that PHP is a server-side programming language. All right, now we know what HTML is and what PHP is. I want to serve this PHP right now, so I would change my path to PHP. And as you can see, we see the bunch of gibberish. The reason for that is that we don't have an interpreter that would change this HTML code, HTML code, into the HTML code, because you see, the things that really matters is what is the file extension, and right now it's PHP, but it's still the same content, right? It's HTML, but it doesn't know how to serve PHP. So, and as you can see, I have here this PHP info method or function that if I would interpret it with PHP, I would give something like this. If you go on the images, I would get, this kind of table, okay? So, and we're gonna get here just in a second. Now, the reason why we don't see anything, because for PHP we need to have a server. So imagine, think about it as there's a server somewhere outside that we need to connect in order to interpret PHP to HTML, okay? So any PHP that has been ever served is going to be converted into HTML. It is really important to understand. And without an interpreter, we will have just this gibberish. It's really important to understand. Um, so this is what it is. And now I want to go into my terminal and install PHP. If you're using Windows, or Linux, you would go into PHP, then lots. You would go on the first one, and depending on the operating system you use. So for example, if you use Windows, you would go in this tab and you would search for the PHP you were looking for. So just download it, reopen your terminal, and once you say something like PHP, or if you would yeah, that doesn't quite work. So just type PHP version. That would give you something like this. Okay. Now, since I'm working on the Mac, so I'm going to show you the complete process how we do all this kind of stuff in the Mac. So first of all, I don't want to actually use the PHP and actually manually install all of this. I will use Homebrew. So you will go in the browser and you just search for Homebrew. Okay, there's some mistakes, but wouldn't care about it. So you just copy this command and you paste it in your terminal, enter your password, and then press enter once it gives you an option to either return, enter, or abort the operation. And you're just waiting once it's all installed. For me, it's been just 10 seconds. The reason for that is just I pre-installed it before I started to record the video, because that would take a while, and I don't want to, cut the video and then do all those editing stuff. And the next thing you would do is you would type brew install PHP. And it will take, it won't take anything even, because I already installed it too. So you would type the exact same comments, but it would take more time for you, okay? Now, since PHP is installed, so the reason why we installed Brew is because we need to install PHP, okay? Brew isn't anything. It just helps me to work in my Mac terminal, okay? So now I have my PHP, and once I type PHP, you would have, you will see something like, my bad, PHP version, of course. You would see something as I see here, okay? Okay, cool. We have our PHP, and basically, we have PHP, but if I will go back and I will try to serve my file, it didn't work. And because we didn't do anything with this PHP, right? So what you would have to do is to go on your directory that you're in, where you want to serve your PHP, and you would have to type this command, okay? Now, I understand that many of you, aren't that familiar with all this stuff, so I will close my Visual Studio Code, and I will go into my Visual Studio Code again. I will open a new tab, and now I click open. I would go on my desktop, testing 2024. So hello world example, that is the one I used. And I want to open the directory, okay? I don't want to just open the file. I want to be inside the directory. So I open directory, and now if I'll go over here into my terminal, if you don't see that terminal, you can turn it on in your settings. Check this out in the Chrome. It can, Visual Studio Code, they do have a documentation about all this stuff. But you can basically even use this terminal. You would just have to all right, if you don't see this here, you go into this terminal, you type cd, then you go into Finder, desktop, wherever your files are, okay? And then I would press option, and as you can see, once I press option, I see this copy on my mail, actually not on my mail, hello world, that's what I'm looking for, as a path name, and that's what we need. So you just copy this and then Command V, you paste it in and then enter, and you're inside of this directory, okay? The next thing is to actually use PHP, since we installed it with the Homebrew. So you would type PHP, then you would type -s, and so you should say your localhost and any port you want, except those that are reserved ones. So 127.0.0.1 stands for localhost, and we're going to serve it as 8080. So you press enter, and it works, okay? So now we're serving this thing. In order to check this, I mean, you can go into the terminal and actually check this. I mean, open the second tab and then say ls off. It doesn't really matter if you don't know what I'm typing over here, but yeah, this is just the way we can check this. It is not in the scopes of this tutorial for you to know all this stuff, but as you can see now, we're listening for this, and because we just started this thing, okay. And now I can be sure that I can serve this. If I will reload this again, it won't work because we're serving the static file, right? Because right now index.php is just a file. I just opened the file in my browser, and that would work with HTML. I mean, that would work perfectly fine because HTML is the web page itself, but it won't work with the PHP because PHP is a server, okay? Is the server-side programming language, and it requires a server. So just now we've created the actual localhost server, okay? And if I open this up, so you hold command. Oh, it doesn't work here, but it would work in the Visual Studio Code anyways. You just copy this thing, and now you remove this and you press enter, and as you can see, it works out. Now our PHP is actually correctly served, okay? And the reason for that is that, as you can see, we get the request and then we accepted it, we're closing stuff, and it works because it is the actual real-time running server, okay? And you would say, wait, where is this, PHP version stuff? You said it's going to appear there. Yeah, it's going to appear. The reason why we don't see that is it just commented. So if I go back in my Visual Studio Code, I just have to uncomment this stuff. And then save it again. I use Command S for saving. And I will reload this again. And as you can see, I see the same thing as everyone else does. So all information about my PHP. And this is basically what it is, okay, guys? When I say, hey, PHP, please serve, okay, with the capital serve me 127.0.0.1 8080 port, it says, okay, I will serve this thing, but you gotta make sure that when you use PHP, I'm going to serve as an interpreter to interpret your PHP. And I'm saying like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Okay, please interpret my PHP. And what this server does is that when it sees PHP in its structure, it says, I found a PHP. Wait a second, I have to interpret it. And once it knows what to do, it goes like, user he opened this page up, and one server got a request. We just gotta get a request. It says, wait, I've got a new user. Right now, everyone, please come over here. We're going to interpret this into HTML and serve it to the user. And they immediately served it to me, okay? And that's what actually happens. What's actually happening, right? So, and this is the difference between PHP and HTML. You might say, well, what if I'm going to create index.html now? Will it work? And yes, it will work. So I'll say, so since there, let's say index.html, enter, and let's just make whatever, like test, and let's say title, and hello HTML5. So I would save this. I go back here, reload this, nothing happens because we serve our index.php. But if I will say slash index.html, this will work as well. As you can see, hello HTML5. So when we make a server, it serves all of it, okay? So what basically server does, it serves the files to you, okay? So when you see some, fancy frameworks like Next.js or React framework, what it basically does, the server is just giving you the files. And those files somehow, they're relating to each other so that they create some, magnificent content, if I can say it this way. And this is what it is, okay? So now you understand what index that what PHP and HTML are and what the difference between them. Okay, so this is pretty good. Okay, we're we're far now, far now from anyone else who is still trying to figure out all those things. Now, I stopped it. So if you look over here, it doesn't work anymore because I stopped my server. But what I want to show you is this. If you will type which PHP, and then you would press enter, as you can see, I have my PHP opt homebrew bin PHP. And this is where actually the process is happening. So in this path, it runs a server, and inside somewhere over there in my homebrew where PHP is installed, it refers on the files on the server, and it interprets the rules that are inside the server into HTML. So basically, if you're familiar with Python is, I can create a new file. I would say test.py. Okay, probably it is the first programming language you use. And what it would do is, in the very simple language, it would say if we see PHP info equals to HTML file that we've got, and let's actually say it this way: HTML file dot has PHP info. So if we see anything that is looking like PHP info, PHP. No, I think it's a hard example. So let's say if HTML file has, I don't know how to say has. There's no operator like has, but let's say HTML structure. Okay, structure. Anywhere equals to PHP info. Let's assume that it can, subtract and remove strings and actually find PHP info function. Then I'd say go over here and write HTML what version of PHP. So return to them paragraph, okay, of what it is. So that it will be HTML, and you would say PHP version is 8.3, and this is what it exactly does in this backend. Okay, the part that you don't see. Okay, and you don't even need to care about it. If you want to be a webs in networking, you would do this stuff. But since you are in, why do you need to care about it? You just have to understand what is going on, and it is exactly what it does. So if I would go again and I would serve this, so to list back the comments, you use Control P on Mac, okay? And then you printer enter. What did I say? Printer? Yeah, you press enter, okay? And as you can see, it says PHP version 8.3. So, and this would be, interpreted in the same manner as I showed you in Python. How it would do in Python. So, I hope it was meaningful and you actually comprehended, grasped the sense of it. Now we're going to create our... Alright, I took a little break, so now we're going to dive into Nginx and actually grasp the sense of how SSL and HTTPS works. Okay, so let's go brew services, and actually, no, wait a second. We're going to say brew install Nginx. You press enter and you're waiting for the installation. Well, though I installed it actually before I started to record this video, it is still trying to do some stuff, but I think it's going to be pretty fast. Yeah, it says that I have already installed that. So now if you will go and you will type brew services start Nginx, you're going to see something like this. Successfully started. Now, from the installation, I know that my Nginx server, web server, runs my runs my what is that, domain or host on the port 8080. Okay, if I reload this stuff again, you will see that localhost 8080 works after you start your Nginx. If that suddenly didn't work, try to use 127.0.0.1. That should work as well. Now, that's pretty good. We know the second method, how to run PHP. So remember about the first method. And the first method, what we would do, um, we would use PHP as, and then we would say our host and our port, and you would just press run, and that would run it. This is the first method how we can run our PHP, right? This is the second method. Here is the problem. It is a second method, but it is actually HTML. Because if I'll go over here and say index.html, it actually serves me HTML. It's not a PHP. So if I'll say PHP, that returns me this thing because we don't have it. So I want to show you how to serve your PHP using Nginx. Okay. Let's remove this stuff. Our Nginx, if we'll go in the Finder, go to folder, go to your main folder, Macintosh HD. So in order to open these hidden files that are kind of a little bit blurred or opacity isn't that good, you need to press Command Shift dot. Okay, dot, or I don't know, it's angle arrow or something. And in order, yeah, so now I hid them, and now in order to open them again, I would say Command Shift dot, and I see them again. Now, if that didn't work, just go and search in the browser how to see the hidden files in the Mac or in the Windows, whatever you use. You go on the OPT, and here we have our homebrew. So basically, we have our Nginx installed in our etc directory. So you open our Nginx, and the main file here is nginx.conf. You'd have to open this file. I'll open it in my Visual Studio Code where we had this index.php. And so I don't want to go through all of this. I will show you exactly what you need to know, okay? And I think that's what you need. If you want me to create a course that would talk about all this kind of stuff, I would eagerly do that for you. But as for now, I don't want to do that stuff. And now the last thing, this 116th line, we're going to put after gzip on tab, and here it is. So basically what it does, it includes all the servers we're going to create. Okay, so now I save this configuration, and I go into my Finder again, and here I have my servers directory. So I'm going to copy nginx.conf, since I can't do files in my Finder, though I can create files in my terminal. Actually, let me show you how to do this too. So let's remove this stuff, because what we could do, we just could change the content inside the file and just rename the file. That would be the same thing. So you just press CD, and then again Option, and you copy the path name, you enter it as well as as well as the space. Don't forget about the space, because I forgot it just now forget about it. So now we're in directory servers. What I'm gonna do is, let me show you the whole process so that you see what is going on. So once I say touch, I want to create my new server, and I'm actually not going to delete it. It is the actual project, and I'm going to show you this project. It is a Laravel project, and we're going to run it just in a second. So touch collab.conf, enter, and we've created this file. So now I'm going to open this file in my so it's Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to create a server. Okay, now it's going to be inside HTTP, so it's basically going to be the same thing as here. I just included it over here. Okay, so the server. So first thing first, I wanna server listen to the port. So before it listened for the port 8080. That's why our this stuff worked. Now if I reload this, it still works because I didn't reload the server, because I commanded everything over here. But if I would reload that stuff, that wouldn't work. So if I'll say brew services restart Nginx, enter, now we won't see this stuff. As you can see, it doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work. It's just cache. So, all right, that's pretty good. Let's go over here and let's say I want to listen, and this time on the port, let's say 5045. I think this is the free one. So there are some reserved ports that you can't use. For example, I guess you can't use 5000. Let's use 5045. We're going to use this port. The next thing I'm going to mention is server name. So basically, server name is what you want to use on your what is that, on your server. So for example, I can say the server name I want to use is Misha. Okay, in a bit you'll figure out what it is. Okay, so okay, server name is over here. Now we need to set up a directory from which we are going to serve all our files. And since I have my Laravel project, I'll go directly to my Laravel project in desktop, work 2024. No, it's actually over here, Laravel new, public. And as you can see, I have my index.php here. So you can serve any directory that has index.php, just make sure that you have it. I'm going to use the Laravel project, so it's not a big difference between you, so yeah, that's fine. And I'm gonna paste it in over here, okay? That's pretty cool. Let's so always when you write the line, you have to put the semicolon at the end. So now we serve this. It's almost everything except that I have to say index, and I would have to say what index I want to serve. Is it HTML? Is it PHP, HTML? And I'd say yes, index.php. That is the one I want to serve. If you'd say index.html, that would serve index.html and wouldn't have this file here, so that would give error 503 forbidden because we don't have that file. I believe so, but probably it might change. So now we're going to serve this stuff, and I think it's pretty much it. That's what we need because we're listening for the port, then the server name. We're not gonna, put some logs. So we're just gonna save this thing. And now there's a cool thing about Nginx is that we can actually check if this is going to work. So what I would say is Nginx test. And as you can see, it says everything is okay, test is successful. If you would forget to put semicolon at the end and save the file and run the test again, that would say a failure because you forgot about the semicolon. It says line 5, that's not going to work because we don't know what's going on here. So put a semicolon, check the test, run the test again, everything is successful. Only after that, you can actually say brew services, reload your, actually it's refresh or reload or restart, okay. Restart Nginx. Of course, you don't need to do it every single time to run the test if you're sure in your knowledge, but I highly suggest you to do that. So now we're successfully run, and it's not gonna work, and I'll just explain in a little bit. So we're going to copy this 5045. It's going to serve on 127.0.1, I believe. So let's enter, and as you can see, I've got a file, and this file is exact file that I have over here. So if I go in the public Laravel _new public, and I'll check what my index.php is all about. As you can see, here's just the content, how Laravel works, and it basically uses the canary. So it's not the main point, okay? Now, as you can see, I've got a file that I've just downloaded. So if I'll open this file, you will see that it is the same exact file. So we downloaded our index.php, and this is what I said before. We can't serve PHP statically because we need PHP server. We need PHP interpreter. And here's where things get so interesting, so that when you really realize what is going on, you're like, oh yeah, now I know. So if I'll go on the brew services list, you will see this stuff over here, that my Nginx is running, so it's the status is started, and my PHP isn't. Okay, this is very important point. We'll be here just in a little bit, okay? In order to set up your PHP working on Nginx, you would go in the nginx.org on their demand and in their documentation, and you would use the, what is that? The first one, Nginx HTTP core module. So go in this documentation, and now here just say pound, And what we're interested in is PHP, and I don't really remember what is the tag for this. So just Command F, search for PHP, and we need to be here. Yep, this is the example we're looking for, and it's called try files. Well, let's assume that this is what it is. Okay, whatever. So we're here, and as you can see, we have here this location that is basically the thing that will forward our PHP that we just downloaded. So the reason why I downloaded it is because the way how Nginx reacts on this, if it sees PHP, it just downloads it on your computer. That's just the configuration stuff. You don't need to care about it. So now we want this file not to download on our computer, but to actually go first to interpreter and then display our HTML over here. That's what I really want to get here, okay? This is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to use this stuff, just copy this thing and put it over, where is that? Put it over here. Okay, so we just copied this stuff, and actually, yeah, so I don't want to, waste your time. So you can actually write it if you want, but I'm not gonna go through this stuff now. So let's actually align it a little bit so it looks pretty. Okay, cool. So is that the thing? Yep, cool. Yep, that's what I want. So first thing first, try files. I'm going to delete this stuff. We're going to go through this just in a little bit. The next thing is fast CGI pass. Here we are going to use so if I'm not mistaken, what is that? I forgot. Just give me a second. Oh yeah, we're going to use this stuff. I'll just explain you in a second. Just hold on with me, okay? Stick out with me. 127.0.0.1, and then I say 9000 port, okay? It is really important. Now you will realize what is going on, and you will be like, wow. So this like the next thing is our fast CGI parameter, and here what I'm going to do is use my document root, and I'm going to use what is called script fast CGI script name, fast CGI script name. Okay, so here we are. Okay, now this is going to work. The last thing I want to add all the parameters. So I add the last thing that includes fast CGI parameters. Okay, so I'd basically include this parameter. So include, and I say fast CGI params. It's in the plural form because CGI params, because we might have many parameters as we have in documentation, so we want to include all of them. And now it is going to work, and I'm going to explain you what is fast CGI pass. As I said before, when we actually it wasn't that clear when we used PHP -s127.0.0.1, because it works in kind of magical way, right? We don't really understand what is going on, but it actually interprets. Bro, I'm gonna check this word right now. Pronunciation. Interprets. All right, here we are. Interprets. So yeah, it interprets it, but we don't really understand how. Okay, it works, but we don't know. Now here, what we actually do, we've got a file, which is, so if I reload this again, actually, yeah, the port was different. So what is that? 544, enter, and wait, why it doesn't work? It should have worked though. Which one I used? Oh yeah, 4545, sure. 5045, enter, and we download it again, that the same file. And as you can see, we downloaded it now. But now, once we set this configuration stuff on here, fast CGI pass, what this will say is, wait, instead of downloading it, go on this server, okay? Remember how we ran server before? when we use that stuff PHP-S, our 127.0.1.1 and our port, we would serve this and interpret PHP, and that would work. So what we do now, we say from this server, go to the different server. And you know what this is? It is PHP server that we installed before. And in order to prove that, come over here. Right now, our Nginx is started. Our PHP isn't started. I'm going to say, so now before I'm going to check which ports are running right now. So I'll say ls of I, and for the sake of to show you what it is, I will check if 5045 is running, and it's actually running because we just check this, enter, and we see that it is running by our Nginx server. Don't mind that we have two of them. It's not a big deal as for now. Now, what about if I want to check about port that I just set up? Wouldn't say anything. Wouldn't see anything running on 9000, and we're saying it over here. Go there, but we don't have the server. What if I'll say brew services start PHP? Once I press enter, and I'll say this command again, we have our PHP server running. So what this does is that it basically goes over here and it says, instead of downloading our file again and again and again, just send it over to this server that is just now running and convert into interpret. And interpret, bro. What is that? How do we pronounce this name? Okay, it doesn't matter. We translate. Let's say translate, interpret. We interpret our HTML our PHP into HTML. So that again, what it does, it sends, instead of downloading, it goes on the server and it says, please interpret to me this PHP code that the user is asking, and it says, okay, I'll just interpret it. Just wait a second, and it interprets it, and then it sends HTML back to the server, to our Nginx server. And Nginx server says like, oh yeah, thank you PHP server that you interpreted me this gibberish PHP, because I can't serve anything else than PHP than HTML. And it says, okay, thanks for interpreting PHP. Now I have HTML sent from you, and our Nginx server right now serves our user actual HTML. Oh man, I hope this is so logical for you, so that you are like, now I understand how it works. So now I will save this file, and it has to work. If it won't work, it means I made a mistake somewhere over there. So let's first check if our Nginx test is running. It says successful. The next thing, we're actually restarting our server. So let's go brew services restart Nginx, enter. Okay, now I want to check that my PHP and Nginx are running. Okay, so I would use this brew services list command. So brew services list command, enter, and our PHP and Nginx is running. And our Nginx is going to negotiate with PHP at any time when Nginx is trying to serve PHP. So instead of downloading, it would send on PHP, and PHP would send back on Nginx with HTML content already. Now, when I reload this stuff again, it didn't work, because I don't know why is it 5.4 again. 4.5, enter, and it downloads it again. That means I made a mistake somewhere. Let me check this out. So we're looking for 127.0.0.1, 9000, then fast CGI params, PHP, index PHP, public. Let me check what this will give on Misha. Again, I got over here. Okay, now it works out, finally. So, I mean Misha, because I can use this stuff. Server name is Misha. Now I can also use, I believe, 127.1, because there was cache, I believe. No, it doesn't work. Yeah, so I guess the problem was the localhost, because it keeps the cache that we had, and it can't, I don't even know how to clean it. Okay, so we're going to use Misha just for now. Okay, So you can't use Misha, and I know this. Now, stick with me. If you will go into your terminal and you will try to find what is going on, so you would say sudo or sudo nano etc hosts enter your password over there, and here you are. And what is this? What this is that it has 127.0.1, and it has, like, you know, the name, like the names that human beings can actually comprehend. And I've put some of your like the custom ones that are not by default. I put misha.com, mishalist.com, and but the default ones are localhost. So you for sure you can use localhost too. So if I'll put localhost over here, you can use it as well. So again, you see this cache, so I have to reload it first, and now it shows me the content, okay? So, and here we are. This is how it works. So if you want to add your own, or if you want Misha to work, you need to add this a line of code, or you would say 127.0.1.1, and you would say like example.com something, okay? And you could have even say further www.example.com, something like this. I'm not really sure if you can do this way, like list as an array, but probably you can, I guess. If you can, just add the second line, but I think you can. So, and this is what it is, okay? So you just add this, and actually, like, for the sake of, I mean, that you know what to do, let me just go along with you and add just one simple one. For example, example.com. And actually, example, not example. Example.com. The next thing you go is, I think it's important to point out, if you ran it without sudo, that is not going to work for you, because you need to write out this file, and you need to write it as administrator, or I'd say as the root user, as the super user. So go back and run it with the sudo again, so that you can actually write it out. So first thing first, you want to write it out, so you would press Ctrl O. Next thing, you press enter. You want to actually write it out, and it says wrote 17 lines, and now you press Ctrl X for the exit. Ctrl X, and now I am sure that I can use example.com. Enter, and it worked out. Any different one, example1.com, I won't be able to use, because I didn't add it over there, okay? So, and then if you want to go back and, you know, do the different one, you would just go here, and you would say, for example, I want to have example.com, okay? Since I don't want to have this, I just remove this, and I'll save this again, Control O, enter, Control X, and we're good to go. Now example.com won't work anymore, because I just deleted it. Probably it will use caches or something. I don't want to deal with that, so I'll go on the normal one. Now, as you can see, my Laravel project isn't that good. The design is pretty bad, and the reason for that is that we don't use HTTPS. And here we are. Now we're going to set HTTPS. So let's start. We go into documentation, and we're going to delete this stuff and go into our actual docs. Search for SSL, enter. And as you can see, you might see here Nginx HTTP SSL module, and this is what we need. Press on it, and the first thing you need is SSL. So here you are. What you need to do is to use this example as an example and use the certificates, and I'll go through this just in a second. So first of all, you go over here and you say listen, and now we're going to listen for the port 443. The reason why 443, because the 443 port is reserved, and this port is reserved for HTTPS. And the port 80, which is the default one, is reserved for HTTP. In order to prove it to you, I just go here and I'll say port 80, and that would... It didn't work? Wait, what do you mean? Oh yeah, it didn't work because we used a different port, of course. So if I had used just localhost and I'd say 80, that would work like localhost. So believe me, I mean, that would work as HTTP. So believe me, it works out. Okay. So 443 we're going to use for HTTPS, and also we're going to say that we're going to use SSL certificates. So now let's make our code a little bit clearer. So first I want to say SSL connection. So I would make lots of space here because I think that this is the way we should do this stuff. And the next thing I'd say SSL certificate. The reason why I have this hints over here because I did it before I record this video, so that's why it works for me. But of course, you wouldn't see those. And we're going to create a new certificate. So in order to do that, guess what? We're going to use brew. So I'm saying brew install Minica or Minica. I don't know what is the actual name. Minica, and it is installing this stuff. So what is Minica? Let's go over here. Let's say GitHub Minica. And once you go over here, you will see that it is actually stuff or tool that helps you to create certificates, okay? So yeah, it says wildcard, and it's actually wildcard because if you'll go now, what's it called? So read later, keep, and you will go over here. No, certificates for localhost instead of. Okay, let me show you in a second, okay? So once it is installed, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new folder in my servers. Actually, I did this step by using Command T. So if you will say Command T, you would be able to do the next one. So yeah, just for your knowledge. I'm going to create a new folder that is going to be, not here though. Let me delete this folder from over here. Nginx. Inside Nginx, I'm going to create a new folder that is going to be called SSL, and I'm going to go here through the terminal. So I would just say cd SSL, enter, and I'm inside SSL. So these two dots is basically, it means go out from this one, and now I'm in the level on Nginx, and now I go in SSL. So I think you'll get used to it. And we're going to generate them right inside our SSL folder. So what you gotta do now is say, if I'm not mistaken, it's like Minica domains, and you just lead the bench of domains. Now you list those domains that are written in your local etc hosts, okay, where we have been just recently there. So for example, since we've created example.com, and I actually deleted it already, you can say example.com that we might have this certificate working for this domain, okay, and I will show you what I mean by that just in a moment. So I want to have my my certificate working for Misha. Let's say, so yeah, for Misha, and then for localhost, and let's say for misha.com, okay? Here's the thing, I missed one. So if I'll go in the new tab and I'll say sudo nano etc hosts, enter the password, and go over here. I missed one, which is mishalestive.com, okay? And I want to show you that if you want to put some of these here, they're not going to work. So your SSL certificate is not going to work if you want to list them in your domains Minica stuff. So if you'll go into docs, yeah, that's how they use it. The wildcard, if I can say it this way, enter. Okay, here are our certificates. Here we are. We're going to use these two certificates, these two for the different purposes. It's not the lesson of today's video, so but you just keep in mind that you have to keep them all. Okay, so now I have my domains inside here, and I'll show you in a bit that misha.com isn't gonna work with my SSL certificate. And by the way, yeah, I didn't answer on the question. And by the way, yes, there's so many things to answer you for. So first of all, yeah, example.com isn't going to work. Let's go on Misha. The reason why we don't see anything here because our console will say that we have to use SSL, and I did in purpose in my Laravel project that it can't serve for HTTP. Okay, if I would do it for HTTP, we would see the whole website. But I just want to show you how all of these things are so important so that you know them all. And that is the reason why we see just I don't know, bare or naked website or something. So yeah, that's the reason why it didn't work without SSL, because I set it on my Laravel project this way. The next thing I wanted to tell you, so as you can see, the Let's Encrypt stuff, the guys that are working on the certificates and all this kind of stuff on the servers, they're saying the simplest way to generate a private key and self-signed certificate for localhost is with this OpenSSL command, and we could use it. Okay, we could have used it. We would list our localhost or Misha or all those stuff here, but you see, it's pretty messy. That's why they said in their documentation, if you want a little more realism in your development certificates, you can use Minika. And this is what we did, okay? Because I didn't want you to bother with this, kind of gibberish for me, so that you do this stuff, you realize what each thing here does and all this stuff. We just use Manika. This is pretty simple, self-explanatory, and it worked fine. So that is the reason why we use this. But of course, you can use OpenSSL. Just read about it. Read about documentation of OpenSSL, and you can use it as well for generating certificates. In this tutorial, we're not going to focus on this stuff. I just wanted to mention this. So now we can close this stuff. That's why we use Manika, because Let's Encrypt actually recommend this service that some guy created. I don't know who is the... okay, some guy. Anyway, so now we can close Manika as well. Okay, so the main part. How to work with our certificates and what we actually put over here. So you go over here and you go in the folder, whatever you had this. So it's going to be named after the first domain that you listed. And I'm going to now copy first the certificate, okay? And I again press Option, and I copy it as a path name. I go into my Nginx configuration, and for SSL certificate, I will put this thing over here. So we have our now certificate over here. The next thing is SSL certificate key, okay? So certificate key. And here, we are going to use our key. So since we generated the key as well, so I go here, Option, and then copy again as path name, enter it over here, semicolon, and here are our certificates. Now our SSL is going to work. Congrats. So let's check this out. First, save this. Second thing, as I taught you, is you check if Nginx is going to actually work. So you make test. It says syntax is okay, test is successful. And now we reload our Nginx using brew services restart Nginx. Here's the thing. Now it will say that our certificate isn't that good. It will say that it's not really secure, even though you have your HTTPS connection, but it's not secure. Let's actually check this. So we go into Misha, and now it won't do anything. Oh no, it did. It says HTTPS. And guys, we did that. Because now if we'll go in advanced and proceed to Misha and save, as you can see, it is working. And it is actually the website I've made. Yeah, I know it's Russian language. You can translate it with an English if you will, if you want. It's about shipping and all this kind of stuff. And I actually can reload this stuff again. Because I'm wondering why don't I see... yeah, the model. What is that? That is really weird. That shouldn't look like it looks now, but I don't know why it looks like this way. And this one, yeah, that doesn't make any sense for me now. Probably there's some extensions that didn't load. Oh yeah, of course. It says now certificate authority is invalid, and as you can see, GLTF loader, I got some errors with my 3JS library. It's not mine though, mine. It's just I used this, okay? So now the main part is how do we make it secure? And here is where one app in my computer really matters. In Linux, you would just click that's all right, we can use that, and that would work. What we're going to do right now, we're going to use this certificate. No, not this one, this actually one, minike.pem, and we're going to go to the app that is called keys, access keys, or I don't remember, keychain access. You open this, enter, And now what I'm gonna do, since I did the test before I did this video, so yesterday, let me delete this one. Let me use my password to delete this stuff. Now, okay, and now I'm going to import this stuff over here. So you will go File, you will go Import Items, and you will import this one. Don't even think about to import these two or any of these, because you have to import exactly this one. So you import this, open, and probably it will give a mistake to you. So, and here it says this root certificate is not trusted as well. So what we're gonna do, click 2 times, go trust, go always trust. Then close it, enter your password, enter, and it's trusted now. And now, instead of this model, I will see something a way better. This thing. And now it's secure. I don't know why it says still not secure, but it is secure. Oh yeah, sure. It says it because if you will go in security, now it says valid and trusted. If we would go in security on this one, the previous one that we just used, it says secure connection settings, and it says all served securely. Certificate is missing, and here it says the certificate is valid and trusted, but now it says active content with certificate errors, and it says you have recently allowed content loaded with certificate errors, because we actually did it. It's right here. But if I'll go in my incognito window, and I'll go over here in new incognito window, and I'll open my Misha, as you can see, the certificate is totally fine. And yeah, I can translate the website again. And as you can see, now this Laravel project works perfectly fine. And this is how we work with Nginx. Now I can use my HTTPS connection, and I can use it, for example, let me show you. There is authorize.net website, and if you'll go into authorize.net, actually, I am interested in documentation, docs. If you'll go over here, you cannot use this merchant IP keys without SSL. So you have to have your HTTPS in order to use authorize.net for your test on your computer, on your localhost. And this is what we just did. Just imagine about it. Now, the second example, so we're done with the Laravel project. The second example I'm going to show you is the WordPress project. And this is also a different one project that I have for you, so that you know how powerful this stuff is. Really powerful. Recently I experienced the problem that I could serve. So I used Apache. And the problem with Apache is that I could serve only one thing with my SSL certificate, so that it didn't, I would have to always change the path to the projects I was working on. With Nginx, I can create all of them and work at once with them. And actually in Apache, I could have do it too, but Nginx is more intuitive, and I really liked it more than Apache, so that is probably the reason. And also, I forgot to mention about the stuff that I just mentioned, is that remember that I showed to you that I didn't use mishalestov.com. Now, misha.com is going to work as well, because as you remember, I pointed on misha.com out over here when I was creating the Minika certificate. So if I'll now use misha.com, it is also going to work. But the one, and localhost is going to work as well, because I also mentioned localhost. So all of these 3 demands I mentioned, but the only one I didn't mention is mishalestov.com. So, and it's not going to work because our certificate hasn't been created for this domain, okay? And once I will use this, it won't work at all, because, it's not going to work. It's not listening for that stuff. And that is what it is. Oh, guys, that is so cool. I'm so, glad to actually show you how all this stuff works and how you can operate with this. Okay, let's actually, switch a little bit and create our new... Actually, the last thing left I want to show to you. I know the video is going to be very long, but let's actually dive into this stuff. So, for example, you're working your project, and probably your computer uses someone else who you don't want to go on your, web server and check the stuff that you do. So... And now, this is where the power of Nginx comes in. What we have in Nginx, if we'll go in our documentation, let's go even further, we can find Nginx HTTP auth basic module. Now go on this module. I know I pronounced it wrong. Sorry, I'm not a native speaker. Yeah, probably my accent struggles. I'm sorry, suffers, whatever. Yeah, sorry if it's really so bad and it's pretty hard to understand me when I'm saying stuff. I'm at least trying to be helpful. Yeah, all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to use auth basic, and you will see what it does in a second. Okay. So we go over here. We've created our SSL connection. Let's actually. Oh yeah, there's so many things yet to discover. So I didn't show you those things. Let me show them to you, and then we will come to the WordPress project. So first of all, I want to make structure. It is going to be structured a little bit. So here we say, I don't know, some. What is that? So it's a server name, root, index. Let's call it I don't know, directive. Yeah, just let's summarize it as this thing. And this is let's call it PHP interpreter connection, since we're connecting to a PHP interpreter server through 127.0.1. Now, and the next thing here is going to be the one that I just mentioned, authentication. Okay, here we are. Authentication, and I think it's E, right? Authentication. Yep. Now let's say base auth or auth basic. Auth basic, and auth basic is going to be wait a second, auth basic. So basically this is the message that you want to display. So I'll say the message I want to display is collab. I know collab, you type it through C, but this is just the project that has been made with K, so don't mind this stuff. Collab, what is it, login or credentials, let's say credentials. Probably login would make more sense, but it's not the main thing right now. And the next thing we're using is auth basic user file. The reason why I type every single stuff is because it is so important for your muscles memory to actually memorize what you're doing with your, or I don't know, it's fingers powers, whatever. So, but you have to actually memorize this stuff so that once you copy, you won't remember what to do the next time. And you didn't, but when you type, you don't need to go in documentation the next time to actually check this out. Probably 3-4 more times, but then you will memorize it with your hands so that it won't make sense anymore to go there. So user, auth basic user, what is that? I forgot it again. File. And we have to create this file. So in order to create this, what we would have to do, first I want to create, so keep this thing in mind. I mean, keep this here because our SSL are important, our SSL certificates. Now new folder, and this is going to be credentials, former folder, and inside credentials folder, I'm going to create a new file that is going to be called, I believe I can do it through the command ht passwd. So this is the built-in command that is used. So yeah, let's use it. cd, let's get out from SSL directory, and then Nginx, we're going to go into credentials directory. Inside credentials, now we're going to use http past stuff, and I'm going to say that C, we're going to create a new file, and as well as B, we're going to show the password, and now we are going to say ht passwd file is going to be created. I want to make user as collab and password as, you can make any password like 123 or a really hard password, something like this. gibberish, but I'm going to say the next as the same as club. So the login is club and the password is club. So I'll press enter, and as you can see, adding password for user club. Just now this HTTP path appeared. Click 2 times to check what it is, and as you can see, this is what it is. So basically it creates a pair that has user, and then through the colon it has the hashed password, and no one can actually hack it. Okay, I mean probably people can, but I mean it will take time, right? So yeah, and I think there is so few of those people who actually can hack it. I'm not really sure if someone can actually hack it. Doesn't matter. So doesn't matter for now. I think your office, whoever he is, your colleague won't be able to hack the password. So you just keep it in here, and probably he doesn't know what this thing is. Oh no, I made a very bad mistake. So what I did, I said Command Shift dot, and it basically removed the whole directory from here. That's very sad. So let's go again. Don't do this stuff. Don't press Command Shift dot when you're inside the hidden files. So we have to go to the folder, Macintosh HD. What is going on? Okay, Command T. Now file. Go to folder. Let's say OPT. Okay, now here we are. Okay, cool. You go to our homebrew. I'm sorry, I messed it up. Just wait for me for a second. And here are credentials. Okay, so this HT pass WD we're going to use now as the actual basic user file. Okay, and these credentials, they're going to be used for us to actually get an access to that website. So I'll copy this as path name using option, and now I'll paste it in here and semicolon at the end. Now save this stuff and go back to here. Let's check if test is running successfully. It is successful, and now we'll say brew services restart. What is that? It's not HTTPD, it's not Apache anymore, it's Nginx. Just before I use HTTPD for Apache, and I don't use it anymore. And now let's actually brew services. Let's actually list every service that is working, and as you can see, every single one of them is started. If there would be an error, error probably, you would see it over here. Okay. Now, check this. When I will, let's actually go on incognito right now. So just for the sake of whatever it is, whatever is the sake. So I go misha.com, and I'm not going to use this. Enter. Ba-bam. It says sign in, and I'm not quite sure why I didn't use Auth Basic. Did I spell it wrong? Where's that stuff? Module. Closed site, Auth Basic, location. Yeah, I mean the context is that we can use in the server as well. Collab credentials. I don't know. It should have showed that here, and it didn't. I don't know why. I mean, never mind about it, but it shouldn't be so. So, just put collab inside. Probably just read more about the documentation. I believe probably I messed it up, and it's not really the name, because I think what it says is that Auth Basic enables validation of username and password using HTTP basic. The specified parameter is used as a realm. What is realm? I don't know. Parameter value can contain variables. The special value of cancels effect. Yeah, so probably I used it incorrectly, so, but never mind about it. Just keep it as it is. And just, I will use the same one. Actually, let me try to use the wrong one. 1, 2, 3. Sign in. It didn't work, as you can see. So, and now I'll use the actual one. Enter, sign in. And here is my website. And then this way, you can keep it away from anyone else that you don't want someone to see this. Okay. Now, okay, that worked pretty well. Now we're ready to go on our WordPress, but the last thing left is, what if I will change this from misha.com to the different stuff? So that would work if I would use PHP-S and whatever there is. But it didn't work here because I didn't specify the rule for that in my Nginx configuration server. And it says not found because we didn't even try to find this. So what we're going to say, let's say actually general settings. Okay, and what we're going to say, try files, and then you're going to say URI, and you would say then URI again, slash, and if that didn't work, you would say slash index.php question mark and variable, which is called query, I believe, string or something like this, semicolon. Now what this does is that it says try files when you see an URI. So what is URI first of all? URI is anything after the domain name and port. So now we're using port 443. So anything after that, like slash, it is URI already. So this is a URI. So the URI of this URL is slash. If I would say register, the URI of this URL would be slash register. Okay. So this is what URI. Okay. Now, if it looks, so now if it sees an URI, so that you use URI, first of all, it looks that if there is an URI that is so there has to be, if there is a file that is corresponding to this URI, for example, if register actually has a file that is register.php so that we can serve it, the next thing it actually looks for is if it sees this slash here, it represents it as a folder, and that would work. That would make so that would make it look for the different path. So if it has a slash after it, and if neither of these worked, that would go over here and it would use the default index.php, and the query at the end, the query string actually identifies every parameter that might be passed so that we actually don't lose that. And let's actually save this and reload our server, but let's make sure, first of all, make sure that our Nginx test is running. And it says test is successful, so we can actually restart Nginx. And right now, I strongly believe that it is going to work. So misha.com, and now press here. It worked. Here we are. Although it says an error, the reason for that is that we didn't use an MySQL, so it was default path for the register if there is MySQL isn't connected. But I mean, yeah, that's what it is. And now we're going to, actually, we're not that far from WordPress. The last thing left, I always forget about it, is MySQL. So now I want to connect to my Laravel project MySQL so I can serve it, and, you know, so basically we're pretty much done with the server. But I just want to show you how powerful Homebrew is, because like when you see this, you know, when you run brew services list, that is so cool to see that everything is under your control, you know. So now I want to install brew services MySQL, and I would press enter. That would make an error because yes, I want to install, not services. Install. I missed S. Install MySQL, and now it's installing MySQL. I think it will take a while, but we just, you know, we gotta wait for MySQL to be installed. So what else I want to say about all this stuff? As you can see now, we can actually freely, you know, go through the what's called the URIs, right? So I know that there is a URI that is called support. So if I'll go over to support, as you can see, support works out. The reason why register didn't work because I did it the logic, the way it works, that it gives an error if MySQL doesn't work. So, and it says this stuff. If you want to know what it is, I can translate this. It says support, write to us in Telegram, whatever. MySQL is installed now, and it is so cool. When I say brew list, actually services list, we have already 3 services MySQL, Nginx, and PHP. And it's so cool how they work all together. So now I'm going to say brew services start MySQL, run it. So if I will check my services again, every single one is running right now. Now I can access my MySQL by MySQL u root, enter. And I want to show databases that we have right now. We have the default ones. So since I'm working with Laravel, I have to run or migrate my databases. So I'd have to do it over here. Okay. I would have to use Laravel 4 because Laravel 4 is the database that I used in my Laravel and what is that? I forgot the name of the file, env file, environment file. So if I'll go and open up my Laravel project, here it is, and I'll open this up. As you can see in my .env file, I have this thing, and the database that I use is Laravel 4. So database name has to be Laravel 4 for now. So I will say, and actually instead of use, I have to create it first. So I'll say create database, a database Laravel 4, enter. It has been created. So if I'll show databases again, we'll see our Laravel 4. So now let's use Laravel 4 and actually check if there's any tables. So there's no, of course, because there's no tables because we didn't create any. And we'll go in my terminal and I'll just quickly run the migration command. So I'd say PHP artisan migrate refresh and then seed probably, and then I'll just run this. Migration table was not found because we didn't have a tables, but if I'll run this command again, show tables, they all been created. All these tables were just created. So you can see that now I have all those tables. And now if I'll go into my website and actually check the register, it's going to work because now our MySQL is running and it can successfully connect to Laravel 4. And if I'll go here, as you can see, it works out. There is no error anymore. Once I stop, okay, let me show you this. Quit. Wait, no, incorrect. Quit, semicolon. Once if I'll say brew services stop MySQL, that will stop and I won't see, so I will get an error right now. So reload this thing. Error now because it's not working anymore. Now, and actually I want to check one thing. Just let me check brew services start MySQL. Let's check if now when MySQL is working, the register page is going to work. Let me just put my name here and press enter. Okay, it worked out. So once I reload this stuff, our server, absolutely works perfectly fine. If I reload this stuff, it works out on my Laravel project, and it's pretty cool. Okay, I love it, like it, whatever. So cool. Now let's again stop this Laravel MySQL. All right, just waiting for stop MySQL. Okay, once it's stopped, I reload the website. I get an error, and once I will stop PHP, I will get that not really beautiful website because anymore our server Nginx can't connect to our PHP server that was running on 127.0.0.1 whatever 9000. It can't connect to it anymore, so that will not work. Bad gateway. Unfortunately, this is the way it works. So our PHP is so important that we can't stop it. And actually, I want to run it again. Start. So I think it's pretty much all like everything about this project. Okay. Now, you will grasp the sense what server name is, because now I'm going to create the second project and you will actually grasp the sense how it all works. So I'm going to copy all this stuff. I'm going to leave this file as it is because I don't care about it anymore. I set up my project. That works out perfectly fine now. And I go into servers and I'm going to create a new file. Where's that? I can't create a new file, but I can just copy this clip and make a copy club. And make crc transportation config. And what this is, it is the different website I was working on. And what we did recently, we actually, ran this WordPress. Since it is WordPress, I want to show you the different showcase. We switched on my localhost and we put the WordPress on my localhost so that we would run it from here. But since I was integrating authorize.net API, I came to the point that I couldn't actually test the actual merchant API keys because I didn't have SSL certificates, and I ran it from HTTP. So now I want to show you how you can actually run your WordPress, and it's going to work for you. I promise you. If you will set up wp-config.php file correctly, of course, to connect to your database. All right, now. Okay, cool, that worked. I'm going to open my CRC transportation right now, and I'm going to change a little bit different stuff. So first of all, what I want to do, I want to use still the same certificates because they will work fine. But now I want to say that server name is going to be CRC transportation. When I do this stuff, the first thing you have, so it is for you, for your practice. When I do this stuff, first thing first, I go into my terminal, and first thing first I do is sudo nano etc host. First of all, I have to add this stuff in my etc host, okay? So I would go over here, and this is the actual showcase, 127.0.0.1. I would add the CRC transportation dot, let's say, whatever it might be, calm, okay? Yeah. So, actually, let's actually do transportation just as it is, and I also want to add 127.0.0.1 for my club, okay? Club, whatever. So, and then I will also say that these are my projects 2024. Now I want to save it. I would say Control O, enter, and then Control X to exit. Now I have those domains over there, and CRC transportation is going to be served since it's inside my etc/hosts. And for my, actually, I didn't want to open it in my Laravel project, and we actually don't need this Laravel project anymore. Let me close that. I want to open it from the different thing from here. Yep. And I want to actually change Misha stuff here on Collab because since I added it just now. So let's save this stuff now. Yeah, and you will grasp the sense what server name really is doing here. Okay, CRC transportation, we added it. The next thing, we're going to change the path. We're not going to change this SSL connection because they're going to work fine. No, they're not going to work fine anymore because I actually used the different domains that I didn't put in my certificate, and it is also the practice for you. So it's pretty cool that we will go through this again. Okay, now. Since I changed the domains, now what I want to do is actually change out basic to say CRC trans. I know it. It didn't work as we expected, but just let's change it for now. And you first of all, auth basic user file, we're going to make it just now. We will have to go here and we will say what is that? htpasswd. No, okay, yep. htpasswd. 2s, of course. Okay, and here we are. So I am going to say htpasswd, then dash. We're not going to create a new file, but I'm going to use n, don't create a file, update, and B, use the password, and I will say CRC as the login and CRC as the password. And I'm going to enter this right now, and as you can see, I've got this one now here. Okay. So what you can do is basically go into your credentials and say copy, paste, copy, and you would say, let's say, collab/http past and crc. Okay, so yeah, this is how I want it to be. Now I would have to change my crc http past on the new brand created one. So I would go here and I'd change it, and then I'd save this stuff. So now once it's changed, yeah, we're good to go. So I'm going to use crc http past over here for my crc transportation, and my collab stuff here. Okay, and save this too. Now, pretty good. We've created this stuff. So the different the reason I didn't create them in the one file, because then the guy who has, probably there's a different guy who's going to use this credential. He could have used this credential to access collab 2 if we would have the same file, because this is how it works. Yep. So cool. Now this is fine as long as we have to change root. So I already have WordPress imported in my computer. So I worked 2024 Max projects and crc transport, and I'm going to use the root directory of WordPress. So we just copy this over here and I just paste it in. Now we have this root. This works fine. Our PHP is going to work the same way for everyone. And I think this is what it is all about. So far we are good to go, but we know that our certificates aren't working, right? And we also know that our database for our WordPress isn't set up yet. So, but I want to go along. So I first, I don't want to forget stuff. I first go through the certificates and we will change them now. Or what would you say? Yeah. I'd say I'd go through the certificates first. Now, if this is the case, we go into our credentials SSL. Now we remove every single key we've created. cd SSL Minika, and I'm going to create. Let's use the different ones for both. Wait, what is going on? Yeah, first one is going to be crc transportation. The second one is going to be just collab. Okay, we want to be structurized and we don't want to use the same certificates for both of the websites. So domains now, and the one I'm going to use is collab. So, and basically I want to also I want to be inside collab, so I would say it like this. Then I'll press enter, and now we have it inside our collab, everything we need. The next thing is crc transportation. I'm going to use the same thing, cd, and then, actually no, transportation, and it's crc transportation dash, and then we're inside transportation. So now we're going to go and use the same Minika domains. What is that? crc transportation, I believe, right? Transportation, crc. Actually, let's copy it, because if we did a mistake, that is not going to work, and we will be figuring out what we did wrong. Yes, it looks like it is what it is. crc transportation as the server name. Therefore, I'm going to create it just right now. And as you can see, we have both of the certificates working for us. So let's go into, I think we used the right ones for both of them, but we're going to change the directories a little bit. So for collab, I'm going to put first collab here. Oh wait, even not so. how's it? Clap, CRC transport. Yep, that is working. So SSL clab, and then again clab, because this was the domain name that we chose. And here the same thing for both of them. Now save clap. Clap is going to work, for now it is going to work fine. CRC transportation now is going to work fine as well after this step, because we actually added everything we needed. Now it's not going to be secure because we didn't add it into our access, keychain access. So now I'm going to delete this one since I deleted it from my computer. Delete minicam, and then delete, use your password to delete this stuff. Update settings, and now I'm going to import two new ones, import items, and I'm going to import clap, the first one. It is going to be minicam, which is the root certificate. Open this up and then allow all the trust privileges that it may have, and then enter your password again. Cool. And the next one I'm going to, was it this one? CRC transportation, the one that I just used? I'm not really sure. Wait, did I use club or? Okay, anyways, let's use the different one now. File. I think we'll figure it out just now. Yep, we used clamp, so now we use CRC transportation root, open, and we're going to make this one as trusted as well. Always trust, and then close that and enter your password. Everything is going to be working fine now. The last thing left is actually to set up our database, and for this case I have MySQL Workbench. I can actually import the database using the terminal, but I don't want to do that. So before this video I downloaded my database from WordPress. It's not the hard thing to do, so you can find it. I think I have in my downloads as .sql, yep, this stuff here. So I'm going to open MySQL Workbench. It is DMG stuff, so that you can find it. This thing, I'm not sure it's gonna work. It's not gonna work because I deleted Homebrew before that. So let's actually remove this one because it's not gonna work. Where's that? Delete connection, delete it, and then rescan servers. Okay. We didn't find any because I stopped MySQL. So yeah, so also Workbench works when MySQL is also working. So let's check brew services list, and MySQL, I suggest it's not working. Yep, it's not working. Brew services start MySQL, enter. And now it's working, so we do rescan, and we found our root MySQL. So go over here, and now it's here, Laravel 4 we have. And what I'm going to do is to import a new database. So I would go help, and I would find where I can find data import. So it's in the server or tools. Wait, what was that? It was, yeah, server, and then we have data import, and you're going to import not from the dump but from the self-contained file, or either if you have dump you can use dump, but I'm going to use self-contained file that is just SQL. Open this up, and default target schema, I'm going to use a new one. So let's create a new one, and it's going to be called, wait a second. For this purpose, now you have to go into Visual Studio Code to your project and check out your what's called where's that config, wp config PHP. And as you can see, this is how my database name looks like. So I would go here and I would use this stuff. So, and be sure that everything is correct here, because if it's not correct, it's not going to work, of course. Now I can close it because I don't care about it anymore. And this is the database I want to use. I press start, import, and since I don't have a password, I just press OK because there's no password. And the operation has been completed. So if I reload this stuff over here, we see this database, and the last thing left is that I want to go into what's called options, and I will open this thing up, and as you can see we have HTTP CRC transport. If the domain is not corresponding to the domain you're running your server from or your WordPress project from, that is not going to work. That's why we have to use the exact domain we're going to use, and we're going to use the domain that is called CRC-transportation. So you would go over here and you would delete everything until HTTPS, and then you would say the domain is going to be this stuff. So you copy this, you enter it here, and then you copy this and enter it for the home. And site URL and home, they have to be the same ones that you ran. So then you click apply, you apply this stuff. Once it successfully executed, you wait, what is that? Yeah, okay, so that's fine. If we reload the stuff, it's saved. Okay, cool. And the last thing is to reload our server, and I guess we'll get some mistakes, but we'll check this out. So Nginx test, first of all, it says that the test is successful, and it runs the test for CRC transportation and collab configs, because we included them all inside here by including servers directory, because all of them, they are of course inside the servers directory. Wait, did I close that stop? Yep, I closed my OPT. Okay, anyways, doesn't matter for now. I guess that's pretty much it. So let's actually reload our server, brew services, restart httpd. Oh no, okay, I did a mistake, because httpd is Apache and I did not install it. I actually deleted it previously. I already said about it. Nginx, enter. Alrighty, now the moment of truth. Reload the stuff, go advanced, proceed to misha.com. Username, I remember I said clab, sign in, and it didn't work. All right, yeah, of course, that didn't work. And yeah, that's right, because remember which domain I actually put there, HTTPS, and it was collab. Remember, it was collab. Now, and the port is 443, and I think that is what it is. And now I actually can use collab over here. Collab, sign in, worked out. So we did it from the first try. Now let's check what CRC is all about. HTTPS CRC-transportation, and then port is 443. It's not necessary to use colon 443 because it's going to be by default since we use HTTPS. And actually, mistake here, typo. HTTPS looks like this is what it is. Enter. All right, password CRC, remember, enter, sign in, and the moment of truth, the truth should be revealed. Yes, that worked out. Here we are. So our website, which is WordPress, worked out and works on SSL certificate, and we can use any IP keys that require SSL certificate to send the request. Oh man, that is so cool that all of this worked out. And now I can truly say, you know what your server name is all about. Server name is this thing that defines that collab will go to this root directory, and that CRC-transportation will go into this root directory, and this is what server name does. Now, the last thing, we're done with everything, is to make a default server. Everything else is going to be served by the default server. And the way I'm going to do this, we can close all this kind of stuff. So let's close SQL. Let's close MySQL branch since we set it up and it worked perfectly fine. This stuff, no, I'm not interested in it anymore because I actually changed it just recently. So I don't want to retype my changes so that they won't be anymore there. And default server. So what I mean by that is that so what misha.com, for example, HTTP will be, because we don't have anything that can actually handle this stuff. And now I want to set up the default server. Sorry, I said it already several times. You're going to go to folder. Let's open Macintosh HD, go OPT, homebrew, the same thing, Nginx, but now in the servers, I'm going to create a new one. I actually copy CRC transportation, I'll say default server, and I'm going to open this default server. I'm going to remove everything and say server, and then bracket, and then listen for port 80, and this is the port that I mentioned, that there is HTTP, which is 80, and HTTPS, which is 443, and then you're going to use server name, which is going to be just this, any. That means any, and we are going to say that this is a default server. You can check this all in documentation. So default server, it will refer over here. and then we can actually serve the thing that it serves by default, and I believe it is var ran ww this stuff. So we would copy this thing, option copy as path name, and then say root over here and this path name. And I think the last thing left is say that it is going to be serve index HTML and index HTML, for example. It is the different format, but it's not going to be there. Just for example, for the sake of learning, I'd show it to you. And we can actually also add try files. That is going to be the same thing as before, URI and then URI / index.php, question mark, and then query string. Actually, no, I want to type it, and the reason I said before, because it is so important for your memory, muscles memory, to memorize all this stuff, and I think it's going to work now. I think it's pretty much everything that we need to set it up in the default server. So what I'm going to check right now if Nginx is working out. So Nginx it test failed, and this is good because now we can know actually, okay, it says default server. Okay, it says invalid parameter. Now it says this because I don't know why. And this is good stuff to check the Nginx documentation. So we go Nginx org, and we're going to go to the docs. Where's the in docs, and we're looking for core module, and now we're looking for listen, I believe, and it says default server, and it didn't work. Why it didn't work? Default server. Did I make a typo over here? It should have worked. Listen, address, default server. It definitely has to work. It says invalid parameter, default server, default config, test failed. No way. No way it is to fail. To be honest, I have no idea why this doesn't work. Let's actually ask ChatGPT if he knows what is the problem over here. GPT. Oh, it's so fun that you can use ChatGPT without registering. What's wrong here in my Nginx conf? I believe it has to work. Probably, I think the problem might be related to the address, so that I have to say like what's called star or asterisk, something like this. But I think it's not the case. So let's see what ChatGPT says. It says that. Okay, now I'm wondering, what did you change here? So instead of this, use this, and this is the exact same thing. No. Oh. Okay. Thank you. I see now. Wait, what? Wait, it's different. What is going on with me? AT. Okay, I use A here. D, E, default. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I messed this up. Let's actually run test again. Now it works. And this is why this is so helpful, that we can actually track the things that are happening. I didn't explain logs, that we can actually use access logs that will display all the errors that are happening. But trust me, you can dive into it, or you can just type in the comments, I want to know about it, and I'll explain you how all that works. But I think you're pretty good, pretty sharp to know how to work with documentation already. So all right, let's not so let's actually not make this video too long. Nginx. No. What is that? Brew services. Restart Nginx, and then I'm going to press enter, restart Nginx, and now I believe Misha.com is going to work. as you can see, the default server handled it successfully because as I said before, HTTP is handled by the port 80, and this is the reason why we handle all the requests that we don't know over here. And of course, 127.0.0.1 is going to work as well here. And as well as localhost, I believe, only if, yeah, localhost is going to work as well. And I believe collab is also going to work. But wait. But we have to say HTTP collab, or that won't work probably. 80, will it work? Yeah, so it still works. But if we'll say HTTPS, and as we know, HTTPS listens for 443, that is going to, redirect us on the actual website. Guys, it was priceless. I agree with this. Because the information you know right now is going to help you so much in your web path or in your web trail, journey, whatever, trip, that it is going to be immeasurable. The only thing I want to ask you for, if you actually, you really liked this video, is to check out what the book Steps to Christ is. This book. I'm not asking you to subscribe on my channel, not asking for donations, I'm not asking for likes or anything. I'm just asking, check out what is the foreword and try to go through it. This is going to be the best reward for the time I spent on this video, and I mean, yeah, of course it's your choice. I don't force anyone, and I am pretty much thankful for watching this video, and I hope it was helpful for everyone. Yeah, thanks guys, and I appreciate your time.